Lecture 1. The Principle of Moral Drift. Let us dispense with the crude image of collapse. It has served poets and propagandists alike, but it belongs to melodrama, not to mechanics. When Gibbon's readers imagine the Roman Empire falling, they see barbarians pouring through a breached gate, a singular event with a date. The historian knows better. The gate had been rusted open by centuries of incremental redefinition, of citizenship, of loyalty, of what an emperor was permitted to do, until the moment of breach was merely the last consequence, not the cause. The true failure had already occurred inside the minds of the governed, so quietly that no contemporary diarist thought to record it. I call this process moral drift, and it is the subject of this first lecture. Moral drift describes the slow laminar movement of a society's coordinates of permissible action, without any single legislative act, revolutionary manifesto, or dramatic confrontation. It is a change in the feeling of a norm, not in its codified statute. The thought once universally rejected does not vanish in a public debate. It stops being a thought at all, and becomes simply the way things are. That is why it is impervious to the ordinary tests we apply to moral questions. You cannot argue against the atmosphere. Consider the history of usury. I choose this example because it is relatively bloodless in its modern form, and because its very banality illustrates the mechanism exquisitely. For more than a millennium, the Christian, Islamic, and Judaic intellectual traditions, whatever their other divergences, converged on a single prohibition. The charging of interest on a loan to a fellow human being was a sin against charity and justice. Gratian's Decretum, the Fourth Lateran Council, Aquinas Summa, all built an airtight moral architecture. To take profit from another's need, without labor, without risk, merely by the passage of time, was unnatural. It was usury. It was condemned. Today, to call interest sinful is the province of the eccentric or the expressly theological. A mortgage is a marker of adulthood, a credit rating a virtue. Nobody in this room, I suspect, feels a twinge of transgression when a savings account accrues 0.05%. Yet the transformation did not happen by fiat. No medieval pope recanted. No Reformation assembly gleefully declared exploitation blessed. Instead, the categories were gently eroded. Exceptions were carved for the labor of administration, for damnum emergens, loss incurred, for lucrum cessans, profit foregone. The prohibition dissolved into a taxonomy of risk and insurance. By the time the Dutch Republic institutionalized the public bond, the moral question had been safely archived as a historical curiosity. The thought interest is sinful did not lose a debate. It was rendered nonsensical by a new vocabulary of time value of money and liquidity preference. Society was trained to stop recognizing the harm, and therefore the harm ceased to exist as a category. Whether you consider the outcome beneficial or catastrophic is irrelevant to my point. The mechanism is the point. Moral drift requires no conspirators. It requires only the steady, unglamorous work of reframing. Every society possesses a reactive immune system, call it the indignation threshold, that triggers revulsion when a core premise is violated. The art of drift, and I use the word art with clinical detachment, lies in never triggering the threshold. You do not assault it. You seep past it. Speeches do not proclaim, "Let us overturn the ban on X." They say, "We must be careful not to be dogmatic about X. The definitions of X have been too rigidly applied. In a complex world, X must be balanced with Y." Pause and notice. The rejectable thought has not been asserted. It has been placed in a queue of thoughts equally worthy of consideration. The first victory of normalization is not acceptance, it is plausible equivalence. I will leave you with a working definition. Moral drift is a change in the collective conscience that satisfies three conditions. 1. Imperceptibility at the granular level. No single step arouses the indignation that a larger leap would. 2. Lexical transformation. The old vocabulary of prohibition is replaced, not refuted, by a new vocabulary of necessity, efficiency, or compassion. 3. Retroactive illegibility. After the drift is complete, the prior norm becomes not merely wrong but unintelligible. The earlier society's revulsion is explained away as superstition, ignorance, or primitive emotion. The mechanism is general. Its neutrality should terrify you. It can normalize compassion, and it can normalize cruelty with identical efficiency.